All right, men, welcome to today's episode of Strong Men, Strong Marriages, how to stop making everything about you. So if your wife has accused you of this, she's probably right. You probably do spend too much time making things about you instead of really getting in their shoes, understanding her. Um, so we're going to explore that today. It's something I'm really focusing on right now for myself, and I had some good insights this week I want to share with you guys. So my name is Mike Fraser, MD. I'm a psychiatrist and marriage coach. I help high-achieving Christian men have more intimate marriages. So some wins from guys in my Strong Men, Strong Marriages program this week. Guys are growing closer to God. I had lots of guys share that this week. They felt that increased connection with God. So important. Without that, we tend to rely on our wife or others to build us up versus really feeling that we have value from God, which is an eternal kind of source. It's actually one of the foundations to stop making everything about you is to feel that worth from God. Wives are feeling genuinely prioritized by their husbands. Man, that's been so cool to see. You got some compliments from wives these past couple weeks of just like that they're grateful for their husbands being in the program and seeing the changes, and I love hearing those things. Guys are honoring their commitments, keeping their commitments, even when it's difficult. That leads to spiritual strength, integrity. It's what is most attractive to women is trustworthiness, right? And so when we're doing that more, we're a lot stronger. So this is the big one. This is what we're talking about, is going from the default mode of making things about me to going ghost mode. So ghost mode is just a term I have for really trying to step into your wife's shoes, understand her, see where she's coming from. And it takes some practice and it takes some skill to do that. Our natural default is to make things about me versus get into their shoes, try to understand, that kind of thing. So talk about that a little more today. But yeah, it really been cool to see some guys they're very much in the about me default, making this really cool shift and being able to make the changes in the moment. Yeah. So guys are feeling more grounded and therefore feeling more able to love. It's hard to love when you're feeling like not connected to anything. Unstable. Guys are speaking up for themselves more. Super cool to see. For me, some fun home wins, doing some fun stuff around the house, and also just like, yeah, I'm feeling like I'm getting out of myself a little more, and looking forward to sharing that a little bit. So if your wife's saying you're making everything about you might be subscribing to this happy wife, happy life mindset. It seems like it's not really about you. No, I'm trying to make my wife happy. I just want to make her happy. I just want to make her happy. But if you look a little closer, what you'll see is part of that trying to make her happy is about looking like a good husband, about getting social credit from your wife or other people for looking like a good husband. So it is kind of about you in that sense. Also, a lot of times it's about trying to get something back: attention, appreciation, affection, sex. We call it the mosquito cycle because you're trying to suck off attention, appreciation, affection, sex from your wife by doing nice things. You do the dishes, you expect at least a thank you, and hopefully she's jumping in your arms and wanting to have sex with you for doing that, right? So it's still about you when you're doing that. That's the problem, right? And the tricky part about it is you're kind of doing something good, doing the dishes, but the intention is off, and your wife can sense that, she can smell that, and it's about you, right? And that's the problem. Okay. So another big one is guys feeling criticized by their wives. Okay. So and this is something that happens to me, right? Is I feel like my wife's discounting what I'm doing. She's not thankful enough for the things I do. She just wants to point out the negative. And yeah, so I get mad or don't listen or defend myself, right? And the guys in the program doing the same thing. But yeah, then it's about you, right? It's kind of like where I was like, hey, why didn't you take the trash out yesterday? Well, I'm so busy making all the money, and you don't make any money, right? We could talk about the invalidation triple threat. She's wrong for thinking that way, wrong for feeling that way. Here's why I'm right. But again, it is about you. You didn't get into her shoes at all, or I didn't get into my shoes at all when I respond like that. Or like being upset that the kids are doing what you think they should be doing. So whether the kids aren't obeying, or like I have an 18-year-old that's still in the house, and man, like I did a big battle with that thought this week. I'm going to share a little more about that coming up here. But yeah, here's the problem with all these, right? So there's a scripture, Mark 8:35. It says, "Whoever wishes to save his life will lose it." And look, you can interpret that a lot of ways, but for me, the way that's hitting me this week is that really making it about you, it pretty much just leads to you being miserable. Okay. So with happy wife, happy life, you end up feeling just ripped off, right? Resentful. Here's everything I'm doing for you. You're not doing anything for me. It's not fair, right? So you're mad, you're upset, you're resentful, maybe you're escaping into pornography, or talking with other women, or wishing you could have an affair, or thinking about divorce but not wanting to go through with it because of the kids or whatever. And then you go back to trying to make her happy, and she doesn't do what you want, and it just goes back and forth, right? So it's miserable, right? I lived that for a long, long time. It's not fun. Another one is, you feeling attacked or criticized or not enough when your wife seems like she's pointing out things you could do better. That's not a fun way to live. Oh man, my wife doesn't like me. She never thinks I'm enough. I never feel like enough, you know. Or you're just mad. Your kids aren't going at your desired pace or obeying, right? So like I would come home every day just mad that my son was still in the house. Didn't like seeing his car here. Just like, man, I just can't wait for him to move out. Like that's the way I was living for a long time until like yesterday, right? And I'm very hopeful using the tools from the program I can like maintain this mindset. But I feel like I got a good like replacement thought, so that one had to die, right? That my kid has to be out of the house by 18 no matter what. I have a good replacement thought I'll share in a minute about that. So what do you need to do instead? So again, like just whoever wishes to life will lose it. Like that's the way I'm seeing it right now. When you just try to make everything about you and what's good for you and how everybody should be doing what you think they should be doing, you end up miserable. You really do, right? I've been there. Okay. And then Mark 8:35, the rest of it says, whoever loses his life for my sake in the Gospels will save it. Right. So what does that mean? Right. So to me, what that means is, hey, when you can connect to God, that ultimate source for your sense of value, you save your life, you live your life, you start enjoying it because you're not dependent on your wife to build you up all the time, or your kids to obey so you can feel good enough, or for you to hit that promotion or make this much money so you can feel good enough. You get free of all of that when you connect to God with your self-worth, and you realize the script, like the phrase I'm reviewing lately from Max Lucado's book, You Are Special. You are special because I made you and I don't make mistakes, right? Man, that one just hits me. I love that quote. So that's how it is for me. What I realized this week is actually that's how it is for my kids too, and my wife too. They're special because God made them, and He didn't make a mistake with these kids, right? With my wife. Yeah, I mean that's hit me in a really good way today. So the other thing, what else can you do? You can, instead of trying to get your worth from God and your money and your kids obeying and social status and all that, get it from God. The other thing you can do is get into your wife's shoes or go ghost mode, right? Try to understand her. So try to think to yourself, like why might she be thinking this way? What's going on with her? Maybe this isn't about me at all. That's a phrase we like a lot. So one of the gentlemen in the program, he would go like very extreme to thinking, if his wife didn't respond to a text, for example, oh, she hates me, she's going to divorce me, she's going to leave me, I'm worthless, right? Pretty extreme thoughts. And then what he's learning to do, right, is say, well, maybe she's just busy. Maybe there's something else going on. Maybe the way I've treated her in the past, she doesn't feel very safe, right? And maybe that's part of it. And maybe it has nothing to do with me. So when we learn to think more in that way, right, get into her shoes more, think about her, it's very free, very free. We're not as upset, we're not as resentful. Let's just understand our wife. And guess what? Way more attracted to her wife, feels way safer to her, okay? So another guy, he was having some trouble like getting out to work on time because he and his wife would fight a decent amount. And so, we came up with some solutions for him. And, he's able to move from thinking, oh, like, yeah, my wife's, trying to make me late on time, to no, actually she's just bringing up some valid concerns, and she wants to make sure I'm there for her, and I do want to let her know I'm there for her. And guess what? Things are going way better now. Okay, so a lot of it just has to do with our thought patterns, right, and changing the way we think and believe. So there's this book I'm reading right now called We Who Wrestle with God by Jordan Peterson. He's a very intellectual guy, and the vocabulary he uses in that book is pretty intense in a lot of ways, but it's a great book. So what he shares in it is that, like, from the time of Adam and Eve, and what that's about, right, that story is about, is that men are striving for competence, right? And our temptation is to appear more competent than we are, or even to like pretend like we know more than we do, especially to impress women. And man, like I can relate to that. And I can relate to just the overall kind of temptation to say or appear that I know more than I do. I've thought of lots of times when people have asked me questions I didn't really know, but instead of saying I just don't know, I would make something up, or base it on what I sort of knew, right? Instead of just being honest, saying, I don't know that. Let me expand my competence. Because what happens when we do that, right? We don't expand our competence. We stay stuck, right? But The other thing it talks about in this book, right, is that women, just in their disposition, they're kind of prone to point out incompetence, or prone to point out like where we are falling a little bit short. And that's hard, right? That is what happens. And man, I see this all the time with my guys. I see this in my own marriage. That is the way it is. And so we can either think of that as like, well, women, they're the worst, and they just need to stop being so negative and all that. Or we can see it as, hey, look, like this is my temptation, right, to act more competent than I am, and my wife is kind of my helpmeet, right, someone that will help me not fall into that temptation, right? In his book too, he talks about women. Their kind of temptation is to feel like they can be compassionate to everything to no limit. And so, as men, we're trying to help them understand, hey, like there is a limit to what we should probably tolerate and allow and take in to our home and life, right? So it's set up. God set it up this way so we can grow. Okay, so that's the way that would be more useful for you to see it. Probably is, hey, my wife's pointing this out. Is that fun for me? No, I'd rather appear competent, especially to her, because I want to look good to her, and this is my chance to grow my competence, right? To realize I'm not quite competent there, and be humble enough to say, okay, yeah, I can grow in that area. Guess what? When you do that, it's honest, which is attractive to your wife. It's also attractive to your wife that you're listening to her, and that you're humble and willing to grow. All of that's really attractive to your wife. What's unattractive is for you to fire back, pretend more competent than you are, tell her she's the problem. Okay, I've done all that stuff. Okay, it's very unattractive. It creates distance. Okay. So with the kids, same idea. Like, can we get into their shoes more? Can we not make it about us? Okay. So maybe God didn't make your kids just like you. Okay. Maybe that was on purpose, right? That quote from Max Lucado, "You are special because I made you and I don't make mistakes." Maybe that doesn't just apply to you, but to your kids too. So as I was in the car and kind of thinking about this, and like, man, like, yeah, it's just a strong belief that once kids are 18, they need to be out. Anything beyond that is a total failure on the parents' part, on the kids' part. It's created a generation of losers that are totally dependent on their parents, right? And just could not let go of that. So again, like when I'd come home, I was just mad. I see my kids' car in the driveway. I'm upset. I'm mad at my wife. I feel like it's her fault my kid's here. I would have kicked him out already. Just miserable, like not a good way to live, right? So that thought, though, is a strong thought. And in the book, it talks about how like our thoughts have to die, our old thoughts have to die. And man, it's such a strong thought. How did it serve me? Was the other question I asked myself. How does that belief serve me? Well, it serves me by letting me think I'm superior to my wife and my kids, which really does feel good to feel superior in a way. It served me to feel like I was right and other people were wrong, which again is kind of a superiority thing. It's kind of coming back to like that competence. Well, I'm more competent than all these people. And so, I can feel good about that, but also feel miserable every time I come home. So like, is that really what I wanted? This is what God was kind of helping me see. And as I was pondering this and listening to that book. So what the vision that kind of came to mind was like, hey, look, Mike, like I'm God. I've made people in different ways. It's like this field of flowers and plants, right? I've made all these different types of flowers and plants, and one's not better than the other. Like they just grow in different ways. Or like in a symphony, not everybody's the conductor and everybody's the leader. A lot of us as high achieving men, that's kind of our place, right? That's how God's made us, to be more of the leader. And that's great. Like the symphony needs a leader, or I don't know what kind of plant that would be, like an oak tree or something. I don't know. But like, sure, that's us. In our society, that's look up to a decent amount. But does that mean it's necessarily better? Probably not, right? Like, or the body of Christ. Like, are we the brain? Maybe, right? But what does a brain do on its own without the rest of the body? Okay, it doesn't do anything. It sits there in like a glass bottle and doesn't do anything. So it's just, that's what God was trying to say to me, right? Is, hey, look, like not everybody's going to be the same, and that's okay. Like this is how I made the world, and one's not better than the other, right? A symphony, every part's important, and it combines to something amazing. Okay, so the kind of the replacement thought, instead of at 18, kids need to be out and on their own, or they've failed and parents have failed. That's the kind of the short version of what my really strong belief was. That had to die, right? The thought that had to come up in its place was, hey, look, at 18 years old, our job is to help our kids be independent in the way that makes the most sense for them, right? So like, we might have excuse me, like a bamboo that you water it, and it just shoots up. Okay. Some kids, or like I don't know, what's like a really hardy plant? I don't know plants very well. But just like something that's just going to kind of be fine. Like you give a little water, a little sunlight, it's going to be just fine, right? Some of our kids are going to be like that. That's great. Some of our kids, they're going to need more care and attention and have the sunlight at certain times, right? But they're going to bloom into something really great. They're just going to require different attention to bloom and grow and bear fruit, right? So I just like that a lot better. I feel a lot better. I came home not mad that my son's car was in there. Do we still need to sit down with Elizabeth and like develop a plan that will help our kid bloom and bear fruit and grow and all that? Of course we do, right? We don't exactly have that right now, but so in my therapist was like, don't try to make a contract right now with your kid. And I was like, yeah, let's make a contract. But the way I was coming at it from was, the question in my mind was, how quick can we get this kid out of the house so he doesn't bother me, right? That's what was on my mind. It sounds bad to say that, but that really is where my mind was. So she's right. It didn't make sense to try to approach from that way. But now that I have more of this mindset, now it is time to do that, right? Sit down with Elizabeth, sit down with our son, and just say, hey, like, here's, like, you're a different person than everybody else. We want you to be independent, to be living on your own, to be supporting yourself financially. Okay, let's put a plan together that really like helps you do that in a way that makes sense for you and grows you in a way that is strong and good. So even saying that, man, I just feel so much better. I feel so much more grounded. I feel so much more at peace. It's better, right? It's better this way. I promise you, to not make it all about you. The other one was all about me. How can I stop paying for this kid financially? He's a drain. Like my thoughts were like, this kid's a leech, right? These kids are leeches. They're just trying to leech off of me all the time. Not a great way to look at them. Not great for me. Certainly not great for them, right? Versus this is a plant that we're trying to grow, and we're in charge of growing this plant. Feels a lot better. Okay. So I'm grateful to God for like helping that old thought die, helping a new one come in. Now I need to nurture that thought too. Remember that thought, place that thought. But man, for me, when God speaks to me in like images like that, it just connects a little better. So I feel like this is one that'll stay. So why does this work? Why this works is when you're less self-absorbed, you really are happier. So Jesus was right. Okay, when you seek your own life, you're going to lose it. You're going to be mad. When you lose your life, care about other people, it's going to be better. And intentions are what matter. So like just taking this example again, we could have sat down with our son and had the same conversation, create like a contract basically for him in the house after 18, what's required of him, what does it look like, right? But if the intention again was me kicking him out of the house as soon as possible, I didn't care what happened to him really, he'd figure it out. Okay, that would have come across much differently than, hey man, like you're a plant, you're going to grow in this specific way, we want to help support you. Okay, same action, having the conversation, very different intentions, it's going to end in a very different result, right? And like self-worth is what matters when we're trying to get that from other people, you know, or if we don't really have it, we're going to try to get it from other people, and that does make it about us. We need to come from a more solid place, and that comes from connecting to God. And look, it's still good and important to ask for what you want, clearly, out of love for yourself, all right? But that's not the only thing that's good to be asking for and thinking about is what's good for me. It is useful. It's not that you never think about what's good for you. That is important. And it's not the only thing to be thinking about all the time, okay? Thinking what's good for my wife, what's good for my kids, how can I support them, okay? Again, the weird thing is when you start doing that, you feel better, okay? You start finding your life. So what do you need to do all this? You need deep self-worth based in God, integrity, and kindness to yourself. So self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, that's what that comes from. You need mental strength to challenge your current beliefs. Let those old thoughts die, right? That's what happened to me this week going through this. So that was a tough one. It was a tough one to let go of. I feel like I've let go of it, which is honestly a miracle. Like I'm grateful to God for that. Emotional strength to name, feel, and release your emotions in healthy ways. A lot of us high achieving guys are not very good at that. We're pretty good at just stuffing emotions instead of naming, feeling, and releasing them. We need the ability to get into our wife's shoes and other people's shoes. That takes practice. It also takes, again, like these other things, this ability to have some self-worth, to name and release emotions, to take time out when you're trying to have a conversation that you need to take a break from. Okay, that's something I'm working on a lot with Elizabeth right now. It's really going great. You need communication skills. How do I listen well? How do I express myself well? How do we get to win-wins? You need intimacy skills, bringing up fun, flirting, and passion, ways that are positive and connecting. So we talk about all that in our program, Strong Men, Strong Marriages. So we'd love to have you come join us. Visit strongmen.io. You can join the email list. Or if you're a high-achieving guy, so you're making like $250,000 or more a year, you're ready to make a significant financial investment, we do have an intensive program that just takes a few guys a month in, and we work with you daily to help you make these shifts and grow these things. So if that's you, there's an application to fill out at strongmen.io. If you're not quite there, you don't quite have that kind of financial resources, we do have a group program that opens once a month. So you come join the program, join the email list, and when it opens, you'll get a notification. We had some great guys join in last month. I'm looking forward to working with them in our alpha group, the first group that opened for the year. So yeah, proud of them and looking to, and they're already making some good progress. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work with them. All right, man. So stay strong in God. Visit strongmen.io, and we will see you next episode.